Council, 1 minute. Good evening. I would like to call to the order of the Subcommittee of the City Council for Legal Affairs. In attendance is Councilor Daigle, Councilor Higgins, Councilor Melville, Councilor Turco. Also in attendance is Councilor Peach, Councilor McGinn, Councilor Gould, and Councilor Manning Martin. We have 2 items on the agenda: downtown parking recommendation changes to the ordinance, as well as the Peabody Independent Greenway Bikeway Extension Project. First order is downtown parking. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on the downtown parking ordinance?
Tim Brown, Northeast Arc. First of all, I'm a huge fan of the new parking meters, so there's 0 complaints on those. I only wish we had started the enforcement sooner. When you walk up and down Main Street or through the lots, you see cars that are parked there for long periods of time. The theory is good, but until you finish putting it in action, it will not really come to fruition. We won't see the benefits of it. What I really want to talk to today is about the snow ban parking. For the last 9 years, Beverly and Salem have figured out how to create a downtown parking district. Snow parking or snow bans are incredibly difficult to predict. I would not want to be in that position of having to determine when a snow ban starts and when it ends. What the other communities have done is distinguish separate areas and have separate rules for those areas, and we'll roll out the information throughout the day. Peabody has Peabody Connect, Salem has Code Red, Beverly has, I forgot the app that we use in Beverly. But as business owners, we're able to pay attention to the app and inform our customers. Currently, how the system works in Peabody is when a snow ban is in fact, all the parking lots downtown become open to resident parking. You cannot park on Walnut Street, Foster Street, or Main Street, making the businesses not have a place for their customers to park or to go to. We've worked too hard over the years to try to encourage businesses to come down to Main Street. We can't stop and not allow them to have customers in January, February, and March. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on this matter?
Hi, I'm Sarah from 43 Main Street in Peabody, and I'm really delighted that you guys are looking at the downtown parking ordinance again, so thank you so much for your time and efforts. I want to echo Tim's remarks and say that the meters are delightful, and when you walk up and down Main Street and you ask neighbors, everyone is really grateful to see that the meters are in fact there and being used by patrons, although I agree with Tim and I would request consistent enforcement. I think the biggest message I just want to pass on today, we're lacking representation from our Chamber of Commerce today and perhaps from our business liaison today. So while I can't represent all businesses, I just wish to pass on the feedback that the goal of the meter parking program is to bring economic vitality downtown. And we do that by encouraging people to visit businesses and hearing what businesses need from the meter program. So enforcement will be a huge piece of that. Communication is another huge piece of that. So just trying to help businesses to understand what are the rules, and that's the biggest question that I get. If you stand in my shoes, which is to welcome thousands and thousands of new visitors to Peabody, people who have never set foot in this city and definitely never parked their car in downtown, and stand at my front door, the biggest question that I get is, where do I park? How much time, what does it cost? How much time, what time do the meters go to? And I reiterate that information every day, and it's on our website. I would love to see that communication increase simply to ease the experience of visitors who are coming downtown so that they know exactly what to expect. I don't think that visitors are challenged by the particular cost of the parking or the length of the parking so much as wanting to visit the local businesses and know exactly what to expect as they're coming to visit. The final thing I'll share is that one of the salient points that I took away from the hearing that took place the day before Thanksgiving last year, and the biggest change that has impacted my personal business and I know many of my neighbors, is the change to the length of time that folks are allowed to park. And while we understand the reason to change the meters from 1 hour to 2 hour, perhaps that benefits some local businesses, the biggest challenge that I have heard and that I have experienced is that folks aren't sure where to send their rotating staff of employees to park. So I understand you guys will be discussing the business sticker tonight, and I think that's a fabulous application for people who come downtown 5 days a week. Maybe you're working at a bank, and it makes sense to pay that annual fee. However, there are many businesses, particularly service-based businesses that may have wait staff or similar, who don't have staff who are working on an annual basis or a 5-day-a-week basis, but they are coming in for a 12-hour shift or a 10-hour shift. They are unclear right now on where to park, although right now they're just parking at the meters all day because they're not being monitored. So I would respectfully request that those folks be considered as you're thinking about the durations of parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I just want to say a couple of things. Number one is the reason why we're having this meeting is thank you, Sarah Nakis, for sending a memo back in January, and the Chamber sending a memo, and thank you to Kurt Bellavance for also sending a memo in response to their inquiries. So that's the reason why we're having this meeting tonight. Just to backtrack a little bit further, I want to thank Community Development, the Police Department, and the Ward Councilor Peter McGinn for their hard work and tireless effort to get this off the ground. The painstaking effort it takes to undertake a monumental task of implementing a whole brand new parking system is daunting. And that took a couple of years to get to where we are today. Now, where we are today, is it 100% perfect? Me personally, I don't think so. And if you look at the memo, which I will entertain a motion to receive item 8C.
Motion to receive, please.
You heard the motion by Councilor Daigle. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. So if you look at the item 8C, it addresses a lot of the concerns that Mr. Brown had, Ms. Nakis has, the Chamber has, and I think it goes pretty well in depth of reasons why either community development, the police department, or just our own regulations have these rules implemented. So I want to thank, again, the Community Development Department and the Police Department for this updated memo on specific changes to what's already in place. I'll now open that up to the council. Councilor McGinn.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not on the committee, but appreciate you letting me kind of give some opening comments here, and appreciate the overview that you provided. Yeah, as you indicated, there's in the package, there's two primary communications. The one from community development that kind of reaches back to that November 21st legal affairs meeting and kind of pulling in the points of feedback that Mr. Bellavance believed he heard from the council that night. And then additionally, the chamber reached out to a number of the downtown businesses and pulled together quite a bit of feedback, actually, and then kind of summarized that. So the point of 8C, the item that you just received, was to basically take like points from each of those memos, and again, the people who've been working at this at the very detailed level for, as you indicated, for years, reviewed each of those points, and Mr. Bellavance, Sergeant Harkins, Captain Richards, and Captain Richards is here this evening and is obviously available to the committee to provide any additional input, and Mr. Dela Cruz, who is the parking clerk now and is relatively new in that capacity, and has really been quite important in this whole process of kind of getting up to speed, getting up the learning curve on this IPS equipment and the related software applications and so forth. So I checked with him in advance, and Mr. Dela Cruz is okay with us referring to him as Nino tonight, because that's how everybody refers to him. So if you hear me mention Nino, that's who I'm talking about. And again, there were kind of 7 major sections here. I think that 2 or 3 of them were mentioned in Mr. Brown's comments and Ms. Narcis's comments. I would, I didn't, I think they just kind of reiterated some points that had been captured in one of those 2 prior communications. So I think hopefully the committee feels pretty good that we've got a fair amount of feedback here that was, again, synthesized once through the chamber, and now kind of again trying to combine similar information from other communications into this. And again, we've gone through this. We've provided feedback on each point. We've provided recommendations on how to go forward. And then where those recommendations would necessitate ordinance language changes, we've provided some language to address that. So you have before you, Mr. Chairman, something that has actionable information in it that would get us beyond the discussion point, and allow us to move forward with some of these changes that will hopefully be beneficial. I'm really happy that we've reached this point. One of the comments that I had made back in November was, can we please, it was kind of a plea to the council, can we please just get this thing off the ground, because we are now going to have equipment out there that is going to help us gather information, and the software associated with the meters and the kiosks, help us paint a picture, tell us a story. So rather than kind of some, anecdotal things about what people kind of think they see or what they kind of believe, which is important, certainly important. I'm not being dismissive of that, but additionally, we have a lot of data now available to us that can help us kind of tweak this thing in a way that hopefully works better for everyone. So again, I'm not gonna get into the substance of that point by point. I'll leave that to the committee to deal with that how you feel, how you see fit. But I'm myself, along with Ms. Burnson from Community Development, who's covering for Mr. Bellavance tonight. He needed to be out of town. And obviously, Captain Richards and Nino can cover for Sergeant Harkins, who was involved in a very detailed level. And I sit here ready as well to provide any further clarification that anybody might have on any of these points. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Before I go to Councilor Daigle, I just wanted to state for the record, the chairman-president did reach out to me from the chamber, and one of her requests was to make sure that long-term parking was addressed, and that is addressed in this memo. So I just wanted that for clarification for the record, that Deanne Haley did reach out to me this morning to see if that was going to be addressed, and I did let her know that that was part of the new memo that we have before us, item 8C. Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to echo your applaud to everyone that was involved. This has been a long time coming, and it's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. We're trying to please, I've had conversations with most of you. We're trying to please the businesses, the customers, the residents. So it's a starting point, and I think, thank you guys for putting this much time and effort into this. And if it's not perfect, we'll tweak it. So it's a starting point. We've all talked a lot. I thank you, Sarah Narkis and Tim Brown and Captain Richards and everyone else. Here we are. So I'm comfortable with this moving forward. And I know some concerns include notification from people from out of town. You're coming to a wedding, you're not from Peabody, no one knows what a blue light means. But now we have this great new meter, and you can look at the meter and you can see, and it's going to tell you, oh, well, it's snowing, you can park here until 9 o'clock. And after 9, you get to figure it out. Maybe you can't park all night, but there are certain lots you can, and I don't know. It's not perfect, but I think this is what we start with, so I'm very happy to support this. And sorry to ramble, and I have it's that twilight zone that I have the sun in my eye. So if I'm prepared to support this, and thank you, Councilor McGinn, for spending all your time and effort. I know, and Nino, I don't think he's here, but maybe, oh, he is here. Thank you, Nino. So whatever you guys need from me or the council, I'll support. Thank you.
Any other councilors? Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will echo all the praise that's already been given. I met with Councilor McGinn after the November meeting, and we talked, and I think there's a lot of compromises in here. I don't think it's perfect, but I'm willing to support it. I think it's a step in the right direction from what we had. I would like to keep the snow emergency stuff kind of on the table moving forward, and as maybe we'll never have a winter with snow again, but as we move forward, if there's more we can do to work on that, to help out the downtown businesses as we try to grow the downtown, but I will support this on a full council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Any other councilors? Seeing none, I'll just, when this came before us before, to be honest with you, I did not vote for it. I didn't think it went far enough, and I think a lot of the items and the recommendations moving forward from item 8C, I think are good. I think they're valid, and I will be supporting this in subcommittee as well as the committee of the whole. So with that said, I will entertain a motion. Councilor Higgins.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to draft and advertise changes to Chapter 19, specifically Sections 19-103, Section 19-103.2, Section 19-107B, which addresses the long-term parking. Also like to amend Section 19-108.4, which addresses overnight parking. Sections 19-108.1, which addresses the residential permit program, and Section 19-108.3, which addresses employee parking in municipal parking lots, and the language to be utilized as recommended in item 8C.
You heard the motion by Councilor Higgins to adopt the recommendations from item 8C for the downtown parking ordinance. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
Daigle,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Now we move on to the second item on the agenda, and that is the Peabody Independence Greenway Bike Extension Project. I'd now like to call up Community Development.
Brendan Callan, Assistant Director of Planning. We're here tonight to take the next step in the Independence Greenway extension project. This is part of the right-of-way process for securing easements, temporary and permanent easements with property owners affected by the construction of the Greenway. It's been about 5 years since we've dusted off the old plans for this segment from the North Shore Mall to Endicott Street. We finalized the design plans, and the next step is, it's been about 15 years since we acquired the abandoned railroad corridor for the purpose to construct this this bike path. And so we have completed the design, and we anticipate finalizing the permitting at the end of July. And then we hope to advertise the project for the construction in either end of August, early September, hire a contractor in the fall, and ideally have a shovel in the ground or mobilization and shovel in the ground in the winter, spring of 2025. Tonight we're here to move forward with the right-of-way process, and we are requesting approval from the city to proceed to acquire permanent and temporary easements associated with the project. There are 12 affected properties, 15 permanent easements. 9 of the permanent easements are on private properties, 6 are with the city of Peabody properties, and there are 18 temporary easements. Property owners were notified in January with property intent letters, letting them know that their properties would be impacted by the construction of the project. After they were notified, we had the easements appraised by a certified appraising firm. And then in May, we sent offer letters to all of the affected property owners. All letters were certified mail. And then in the offer letters was the compensation offer letters for each of the easements, permanent and temporary. So tonight we're here asking for your vote to to allow the city to proceed with the acquisitions of the easements.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Just for clarification, could you just elaborate on exactly where you're talking about the extension going from and to?
Sure. The extension goes from the existing trailhead in the rear of the Leahy Clinic parking lot. Then it basically travels along Essex Center Drive, mostly where there's that a parking lot parallel to the 128 southbound side, and then it will transition underneath the 128 underpass, transition on the basically where the sidewalk is on North Shore Road, parallel to 128. It goes a little bit past what is 500 North Shore Road, or the Chateau Royale condominium, just a little bit past their driveway, and then it will cross the street there at North Shore Road and then enter where the former abandoned railroad line is, and then it follows that alignment all the way to the Endicott Street Bridge.
Excellent, thank you for that. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening to you. Good evening, councilors. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you, Brendan. Brendan got to give a lot of the overview of this exciting next step that we're taking. I think this, I've always looked at this project as kind of something that has long been talked about, long been rumored, something that would happen someday down the road, and now we're at the point where this is going to be reality next year. This is just the first extension. There's a second extension that I know we've talked about in the past, which would be a bridge over Route 1. There's still some design work taking place on that. That still has to happen, but that'll be coming up pretty much a year or two down the road. But this is an exciting next step for this project, and I kind of compare it to Central Street, where Central Street had been a project long discussed. We finally got to the point, and one of the key steps was the easements and the takings. Just as we did on Central Street, we came forward, the properties were appraised. The large majority of those were temporary easements. There were some permanent easements. That was appraised, information provided to the homeowners, and that went forward to allow us to take the next step with the project. That's where we're at here today, where we need that next step to allow for the easements, to allow for the takings, and that's what's bringing us forward today. But just like Central Street, the majority of those are temporary. I think the total is 153,000. Just under 100,000 of that is the North Shore Mall. North Shore Mall is supportive of this project. We probably had half a dozen or more meetings with just the North Shore Mall on this project. And I know Brendan and Kurt and that team has had a large number of meetings with Mass DOT, planners, designers, all of that. So a lot's been taking place over the last few years, and I want to commend Brendan for the work he's done. And this is just the next step in that progression to allow for this. I think, Mr. Chairman, you have the language for the motion, and it just allows us, it gives us the authority in order to effectuate the documents, the taking documents, any granting of land by deed, which would may be the case here. But it just allows us to go ahead and take those next steps in order to secure the land so this project can begin hopefully next year. So happy to answer any questions. I can certainly give more details on the project and add to what Brendan spoke about. I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Right now, I'd like to entertain a motion to receive item 8D.
Motion to receive.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. I'll now open it up to the council. Councilman Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the mayor. Mayor, I certainly support moving on with this project with respect to land takings, especially since all the owners here are in agreement with that action. The only question I have is with respect to all but two of the owners, they're private owners, residents that are abutters. The two that I had questions about would be the North Shore Mall, and their offer letter was for $99,300. You had mentioned that, almost $100,000. So was there any consideration for, I know they get a tax abatement. They're our biggest taxpayer in the city, and I believe annually they do get a break. They get an abatement approval. I don't remember what the number is. But was there any discussion in those negotiations, in the offer letter of the appraisal, that they already get an abatement to bring that number down, or even kind of waive the offer? since they are our biggest taxpayer, but they also get an annual abatement, I believe, a significant one, unless I'm wrong.
I'm not aware of a tax abatement that the North Shore Mall gets. In fact, their annual tax rate is negotiated through the state tax, what's the name of the organization, that we have to negotiate, and the appeal is heard by the State Tax Assessment Board, I believe. So I don't think there's a formal abatement from the city that gives them an abatement. They typically, and not every year, but they have appealed their tax number. Then we go in for a hearing, and usually there's some sort of negotiation or a decision made by the board. So no, that wasn't factored into this. Under the Mass DOT rules and regulations on these type of takings, they just go in, look at the assessment. They don't factor in other factors, which I think you're right on with bringing up. But it's just based on solely on the land value. They don't get into other things, and that would have been nice maybe if they did, but they don't see it. They don't. That's not a part of their assessment.
Thank you, and thank you for that explanation. I was calling it an abatement. It's kind of the same thing, but in a different court, I guess. So when you say they don't offer that, or they don't get into that and consider it in the negotiation, who is they?
I should have been more clear. It's the Mass DOT. They're the department that oversees this project. When they come in to do the assessment, hire the appraisals, it's just based on land value. They don't factor in other particular parts of that site. It's just based purely on the land that we're seeking.
And so the city didn't have a seat at the table to throw that 2 cents in?
No, it's just based on a third-party appraisal, independent appraisal.
Okay, thank you. And then the same point would be made for Leahy Clinic Foundation. Their number's a lot smaller, it's $7,400, but they operate under a pilot, right, a payment in lieu of taxes. So just to me, it's these two in particular, things tend to go their way when, with regard to taxes, whether it's with the DOT or getting type of tax incentive or tax breaks. So that's a significant amount of money. The two of those are giving up a piece of land for a total of $100,000 of taxpayer money. That's what we're going to have to get it from the taxpayers. And it's going to be a rough year for taxpayers. So that really just jumped out at me, as it seemed unfair that these two private businesses seem to always have the law falling in their favor on the backs of the taxpayers. So if we didn't have a seat at the table to effectuate any difference in that, then I guess there's not much else I can say. Thank you.
That's a good point, Councilor. Leahy Clinic definitely receives tax benefit operating as a hospital nonprofit. They do pay a pilot to the city, but I think your point is well made. But yeah, again, unfortunately, they don't factor in the other parts to every property.
Thank you, Councilman Manning Martin. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I fully support this, and I know there are others that want to speak about it, and I should probably fill my neighbor in a little more. I know my one request is that, please, and he's done a great job of keeping the neighbors informed, and please continue to do so. But the mall did make some concessions with easements of allowing access under the underpass and access on private property. And I appreciate that support, because I know it took some time. And it wasn't an easy thing for them to do with traffic and having that underpass and having people travel through it. So I do appreciate that, and I think this will be an amenity. You know, it's painful at first because it's new and we don't know what's going to happen, but I appreciate, you know, we have a new mall manager, and this is something they hesitated to do, and we continue to ask them for support, and they've been very supportive. So I appreciate the North Shore Mall for helping us with not charging us to use their land. And, I think it's a great project, so I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the mayor or Brendan. So the first phase is to go from the mall to Endicott Street. The next phase is the bridge over Route 1. Is there a final phase where we go from Endicott Street to downtown Salem? Downtown Peabody?
Yep, so you have it right, Council. This is the first phase from the mall to Endicott. The second phase, which is about 2 years behind, is the pretty much from Ross Park, crossing back there, over where the sports facility is, bridge going over to go near the Hallmark building, and then working its way over to connect with Clark Road, which is over Rolling Hills area. So there's still some design work taking place on that. There's some tricky parts to that one that has to be worked out in the months ahead. But that would be phase 2. And yes, the hope would be to be able to connect from Endicott right to Salem, connect over near the Stop and Shop at the Peabody-Salem line.
And that would be the so-called Riverwalk combination?
That would be this, exactly.
Great. Brendan, we talk about it all the time, but I shoot you praise. You do a fabulous job in keeping this in focus and on schedule and really searching the grant money that we need to do and make it happen. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Brendan.
Yeah, Brendan, we just received Friday an additional $500,000 grant to continue the bike path work. So, yeah, Brendan and his team have been right on top of any opportunity. So that was great. On Friday, that happened.
Any other councilors? I would just like to echo the sentiments of my other councilmen. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing this forward. I think this is fantastic, and thank you, Mr. Callahan, for your diligence regarding the bike path. You know, this started off as a small bike path just along from Leahy to Lalicos, and now it's really going to expand and almost be citywide. So I appreciate this immensely. Seeing no further questions or comments, Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Councilor. The motion would be to be it ordered by the City of Peabody, is authorized to take such action as are necessary to acquire easements in Peabody, Essex County, Massachusetts, described in an order of taking, including a Schedule A list of owners and Schedule B compensation awards presented this day by Council to effectuate the Peabody Greenway project and to award a total of $153,700 as damages for said taking of land affected by said taking, in accordance with the compensation awards set forth in the said taking. So moved. No. So,
Councilor, would you like to amend your motion?
you ordered all 5 words, okay. I'm going to amend the motion. Be it ordered by the city, be it ordered by that the City of Peabody is authorized to take such action as are necessary to acquire easements or acquire property through granting of deed in Peabody, Essex County, Massachusetts, described in order of taking, including Schedule A list of owners and Schedule B compensation awards presented this day by Council to effectuate the Peabody Greenway project and to award a total of $153,700 as damages for said taking of land affected by said taking in accordance with the compensation awards set forth in the said taking. If anybody could differentiate between the two, I welcome it, but so moved.
You heard the motion by Councilor Turco. Any discussion on the motion? Being none, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
Daigle,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Rosignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Callahan.
councilors.
I know it's not on the agenda, but I'd like to add one more item. There's there is an item in legal affairs regarding a sign ordinance. I would actually entertain a motion to take that out of legal affairs. I'm the one that put the motion into legal affairs regarding size of signs. If you remember, about a year ago, our council came before us, and there was questions whether we could actually modify or change the size of signs for political or otherwise, so I'd like to take that out of legal affairs.
So moved.
You heard the motion by Councilor Turco. On the motion, Councilor Melville.
Are you just withdrawing it, or?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. I'd now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
You heard the motion by Councilor Melville. We're adjourned.